The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network.
Welcome back to another episode of the 15-Point Plan podcast. My name is Ryan Park Greigg, and I am here with the most amazing co-host, Jacqueline Smith. We got our coats off because it's getting hot in here because we are bringing some serious energy in these last couple episodes and in these future episodes because we are here and we're talking about management of our energy, which really the 15-Point Plan is. It's our system for energy and health management, right, Jacqueline? It's a way that we can have something we can track, something that we can look at regularly, and something that is pretty simple. But when you do all of these things together, you just have more energy and you've got less stress, right?
Yeah, and a few episodes ago, we shared some striking statistics, and one of them was that 89% of business owners report energy as being their number one constraint. And I hear it all the time. I was actually just before this in a meeting with top performers in my office, in my brokerage, and one of them said that was her number one constraint. And I think it's important that we don't just talk about tactics for business and leads and different solutions like that, and we don't look at energy, because if you don't have the energy, it doesn't matter what tactics you have, because you're probably not going to do them, or you're not going to do them well. So this podcast is not just for business owners, but we do have an audience full of real estate professionals and real estate adjacent professionals. But we also have some moms, some grandmas, some grandpas, some dads, some uncles, people that are completely unrelated to real estate. So we love all of you. And I think all of us, no matter what your profession, could use a little more energy and a little more, or maybe a lot more, happiness. So that's what this is all about.
I couldn't agree more. We could all use a little bit more energy, because let's be real, even if we've got the energy to get through our day and we perform well in business, we got to have energy to go home to the people that we love, hang out with them, and maybe even have more energy because we found these systems that re-energize throughout the day. So what we've done, we've broken down this system that our buddy Brian Gubernick and Ben Kinney have so kindly given us and gone through. We did an energy audit. So we gave our listeners a way to find out, where am I sitting on this scale of energy? And then over the last couple of episodes, we dove into pillars number 1 and 2. Number 1 is on sleep. Number 2 is on exercise. And today we are diving into pillar number 3, which is nutrition. And I was laughing about the quote that we have here, which I would love to hear from our listeners. Is this a great quote, a good quote, or is it kind of a quote? Because we know the quote, you are what you eat. But this quote is, what you eat is what you think with. So listeners out there, shoot us a message on social media. Ryan Park Greigg, Jacqueline Ray Smith. What does that mean to you? What you eat is what you think with, Jacqueline. But we got some stats that are going to support this, right?
Ryan thought this was interesting grammar. I am going to be a vote for, I love this quote, because I realized, I don't know exactly when, but it's been sort of this ongoing revelation over the years that my brain is, we know it's a body part, but it hadn't occurred to me that taking care of my brain through nutrition, sleep, hydration, exercise, all these things could actually help me have a better mindset. I thought that having a better mindset was just all about thinking better. But what I learned over the years is that it's really hard to think better when you're eating like crap. And you're not setting your brain. It would be like if you ate really poorly and then, you were super surprised that you had heart problems. Shocker, you eat bad, you have heart problems. You smoke a bunch of cigarettes, you probably have lung problems. So if you eat poorly and don't take care of yourself, of course your brain cannot easily produce positive, optimistic thoughts that support, a great, happy life.
It's true. Yeah. So what you eat is what you think with, because what you eat is fueling how your brain is going to operate. Right.
You got it.
And a lot of these studies talk about how, your brain. So what's interesting is a lot of people know that we use our brain to think, duh, right?
Yeah.
But there's a whole saying like trust your gut, or oh, that didn't feel right in my gut. And what we know is that our gut is actually like our second brain.
Yeah.
Like a lot of decisions actually happen in our gut, and there's actually science that says, well, when we get that quote gut feeling, that is actually something that we should pay attention to. And what we've seen is that like how we think or how we feel is absolutely impacted by what we eat. And what we know is that 95% of serotonin is actually produced in your gut. Why does that matter? Well, serotonin is like what creates your mood and what gives you motivation. So if you're low on that and you're not eating well, therefore you're not producing serotonin in your gut, yeah, you're just not going to feel great. You're not
Yeah.
going to think great. So a lot of that serotonin is made in your gut. And obviously, if you have a bunch of maybe not so favorable foods in your gut, that's going to cause that serotonin production to be quite less than it should be.
Exactly. So your gut's your second brain, and then the other thing, they say there's 100 million neurons in your gut. And so your brain, your second brain, your gut is constantly sending signals upward. So yeah, just what we were saying. If you eat poorly, you have issues with your gut health, that is probably going to be showing up in your life as, yeah, maybe some mood instability, motivation. I just don't feel motivated in my business. Well, look at what you've been eating for the past week. It might reveal some opportunities for you. The other thing is that 70% of your immune system is actually located in gut associated lymphoid tissue. So what you're putting in your stomach is wildly related to your brain health, your immune health, and all sorts of things.
So what we're hearing is that your diet or your nutrition or what you're eating doesn't just impact how you look. It doesn't
Mhm.
just impact your muscle composition or your body composition, but it really impacts how we feel and how we think. And this was an interesting study, Jacqueline, from Dr. Emmer Mayer in UCLA back in 2023. And you
Mhm.
mentioned the 100 million neurons in your gut. So there's way more neurons in our gut than in our entire spinal cord. And there's this thing called the vagus nerve,
Mhm.
VAGUS. And they say the vagus nerve is like a two-way highway between your gut and your brain. And what you eat directly determines your mood, focus, anxiety, and motivation. So what you eat impacts that vagus nerve and that highway between your gut and your brain. And it's like when you're eating well, you're on the freeway at 3 in the morning, nobody else is there. You've got that clear road. You can drive right through. Your thoughts are coming clearly. But when you start eating all this sugar or all these other things that are going to impact your gut, now you got rush hour traffic on I-5 trying to drive from Seattle to Portland, right, Jacqueline? It's like you're not going anywhere.
That's a good analogy. That's a good analogy. I think this is important. On the last episode, it came up where I was sharing that past a certain point, like I'm not motivated necessarily just by like what I look like. There is a point where I am, but past a certain point, like I'm not trying to be like a fitness model. So
Yeah.
I'm 47 years old, like I'm good. And so for me, learning about this stuff has motivated me because I'm only motivated to exercise or to eat well or to do all of these things to a certain point when it comes to like what I look like. But I'm very highly motivated by things like avoiding Alzheimer's or having a good, I guess, like head on my shoulders, because I have a lot of people depending on me to have a good head on my shoulders. I'm a leader. And so I want to show up well for the people I'm leading and for my family. And so if you're someone like me and you're not necessarily motivated by like, even like being in the best like cardio fitness of your life or looking good, this to me very much motivates me because I've always been hugely and wildly interested in psychology and in mindset. And so it's interesting that I used to see those as separate. And so if you're someone that sees them as separate, I hope this kind of shifts your perspective to realizing that no, they're actually very much connected. by this freeway that Ryan shared. They're widely connected. Okay.
And the more we realize, Jacqueline, it's like these are all connected, right? We know that when our sleep gets thrown off, then we might not drink as much water, and then we might not eat as well. So a lot of these things really, really are connected. And again, back to the nutrition or what we're eating, we have to look at what that does to us, not just how we eat and what we eat. But another thing that it really impacts, Jacqueline, is our blood sugar.
Yeah.
And this is something that has been really helpful for me as I've gotten blood work done, because it's not easy to see where your blood sugar sits if you're not wearing like a glucose monitor or you're not getting blood work done. I was actually pre-diabetic the first time I got my blood work done.
Wow.
I was 0.2 points away from being diabetic.
And you're like a healthy, I mean, I see you as like a pillar of health, like Ryan Greigg. Like
I'm pretty healthy, but those donuts get me often.
We've talked about the donuts before. You know what? We just had Mother's Day, and that was actually one of the things that I wanted for Mother's Day was I wanted a donut. And I did have a donut. I had an apple fritter, and it was really good.
So let's talk about that, because I want to give you a plan where you can eat the donuts.
Okay, good. Tell us.
But like when we talk about nutrition and we talk about how it impacts us, what we know is that when a blood sugar spike happens, our body doesn't necessarily love the effects after. It likes the effects initially. Like we're going to get that little boost from the blood sugar spike.
Right.
But we don't necessarily want to do that like first thing in the morning. So if you're going to eat breakfast, the best way to do that is to have a high protein breakfast. So if you're going to have the donut, don't do it first thing in the morning, because if you do it on an empty stomach, your blood sugar is going to spike even more, which means you're going to come down and crash even more. So if you want to prevent that blood sugar spike, in other words, the energy crash, breakfast should not be highly processed foods. It should have higher proteins, and it should have less of the like sugar spike type stuff. So don't eat the donut first thing in the morning. Eat some protein first thing. Jacqueline shared with me her yogurt recipe, which I've been hooked on. It's like a 3/4 cup of yogurt and a scoop of protein powder. Mix that up and add some blueberries or raspberries. And it's like super good. That's got like 30, 40 grams of protein. First thing, there's 0 carbs. I've been loving that. And that will help you prevent a blood sugar spike. Same thing for after lunch. Right. And this is where a lot of us business people find like, oh my gosh, it's 2:00. Like, give me the coffee, give me the energy drink, give me something because I'm crashing. So if you have a high carb lunch, again, you're going to have a glucose spike. You're going to have what's called an insulin overcorrection. So your insulin's going to try to overcorrect for that high glucose spike after lunch. And that's why your body's going into crash mode right about 2 p.m. Right, Jacqueline?
Yeah. And just so you're aware of what that means. It's not just like, oh, I have a crash and I feel tired. Like, no biggie. I'll just drink a cup of coffee or have an energy drink, which I know a lot of you out there are doing. But here's how it impacts you. 30% working memory drop and a 45% decision quality drop when you have those slumps, like the 2 p.m. crash. So from like 2 to 4 p.m. in that instance, in that example, you are actually making decisions that are not even like, that maybe like half as good as you normally would. Right. So your decision quality goes down 45%. Like, that's significant to me. That's not like you're just feeling tired, but you're still fine and you're still performing at a high level. You're actually not performing at a high level.
Not only are you not performing at a high level, but now your decisions are being impacted and you're just 45% impacted. So you're like you're half as likely to make the good decision or the right decision, right? Like, in other words, okay, now it's 3:00 or 5:00 and I already had a poor lunch. It was whatever. And I don't really care that much anymore because my body's just kind of tired. I'm going to now eat the other thing that maybe I shouldn't eat. Or I'm not going to do the thing that my body should have done. So those decisions really start to stack up, right?
Yeah. Or if you are in real estate, like, I think about, okay, that's when a lot of like appointments happen or client calls, like where you're giving them recommendations and you're not operating at your best. I mean, you're operating 45% worse. And so that 2 to 4 p.m. is also like if you're a parent, when you're going to pick your kids up from school, like,
Yeah.
I mean, you're just giving them like 65% mom, or no, not even 55%. Sorry, my math. 55% mom or 55% dad. To me,
That's a solid F plus, Jacqueline. It's a solid F plus.
yeah, that's not good, people. That's not good. So, for those of us who like the donuts or who grab like whatever is easy or convenient, like you've got to start having some options around that have the protein. So 30 to 40 grams of protein at breakfast stabilizes your blood sugar for 3 to 4 hours. And same thing at lunch, right?
Yeah, so if you're gonna have the donut, eat some eggs or eat some protein first, let that sit for a while. And now when you
Mm-hmm.
have that sugar, it's just not gonna cause nearly as high of an impact of your glucose spiking, which leads to then the energy crash.
Exactly. So it's just so important because glucose is the brain's exclusive fuel. So your blood sugar crashes, they're causing those, shifts in your prefrontal decision making, and it leads to emotional reactivity. So again, like, I don't know, I know some of the memories I have of picking my kids up, when I've been starving all day. I probably wasn't like the best mom in that moment,
Yeah. We were a solid 55 percenter.
55% mom.
So, Jacqueline, what we're going to do to end this episode is talk about just two more things. We're going to talk about an idea of some nutrition framework, like what we should eat, when we should eat, and then we've got some cool supplement stacks. So, this next section will end the nutrition section, but it's going to touch on the supplement section as well. So, let's talk about that nutrition framework, and we've talked a little bit about it already, but we've just really grown to learn protein first. We want to have 30 to 40 grams of protein really at every meal, it sounds like. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this could be debated, and I won't go too into much on it, Jacqueline, but what I've learned through personal experience, too much protein can impact a person's kidneys. I had that from personal experience. Too much protein, not enough fiber, not enough balanced diet will strain your kidneys over time. So I'm not a doctor, but I have had that happen where you just got to be careful that you're eating a balanced diet. So making sure you're getting protein at every meal, and that's going to depend on your goals and your weight and your male or female. But then also this idea of time restricted eating, right, Jacqueline?
Yep. So it's just because a fasted state, which is where you're taking time off from eating, it helps with cellular cleanup. It raises ketones, which is brain fuel, and it increases BDNF by up to 300%. So that is following like a 16/8 or a 14/10 eating window. So where you're taking either 8 or 10 hours. Is that where you're eating for 8 or 10 hours, or not eating for 8 or 10 hours?
That would be so 16/8 would be 8 hours of eating time, 16 off.
Okay. Yeah.
14, 10, 10 hours of eating. So if you break down the math on that 14, 10, that would mean you'd eat at 8 a.m. and not eat again past 6 p.m.
Right. So it's not like fasting where you're going like half the day, like that one meal a day thing where people just like fast. It's just containing your eating to either 8 hours or 10 hours.
Yeah, keeping it in a more restricted window, which is actually a really great thing because eating past 8 or 9 p.m. and then going to bed at 10 o'clock, we've learned through our sleep studies is not a great thing to do right before you sleep.
Yeah.
And then you want to keep in mind having foods in your diet that prevent inflammation. So they call this the anti-inflammatory foundation. This would be things like olive oils, fatty fishes, berries, leafy greens, nuts, and things that are often found in the Mediterranean diet.
Mm-hmm.
And this will help increase cognitive performance and also reduce inflammation, which we've known as one of the main causes of pain, of just not feeling good because your body's just swollen, your body's inflamed. So that
Yeah.
anti-inflammatory inflation. And then Jacqueline, lastly, in that executive nutrition framework, tell them about the gut microbiome support.
Yep. So this would be things like daily fermented foods like kefir, kimchi, yogurt, prebiotic fiber, garlic, onions, oats. The microbiome regulates 90% of serotonin production, like we talked about earlier, and that directly impacts your mood. So these fermented foods and prebiotic fiber, those help your gut microbiome, which helps your serotonin, which helps your mood.
Helps keep that mood up. All right,
That's what we want to do.
let's hit them with a couple of these supplements, Jacqueline. So this could again fall into the supplement category, but nutrition and supplement go hand in hand. And these are some of the supplements that have been studied heavily and have been recommended. And this first one, Jacqueline, you used to have such a bad rap. I remember when I was in high school, like you were taking drugs.
Yeah, you're like basically on roids if you
Yeah.
have creatine.
Creatine.
So
Now,
creatine,
all of these studies have come out about creatine monohydrate, not
yeah.
only in its impact on your physical performance and on your capacity to build muscle, but also on your cognition and on your ability to stay focused.
Yeah, and if you want to know more and go in depth on this, one of our podcasts in our podcast network is Brian Gubernick's No Days Off. So if you go to winmategive.com, you can see all of the podcasts that are in our podcast network. Find No Days Off, and he has a great episode on creatine. He did a lot of research on it, and I thought it was a really great episode, all things creatine, because we're not going to dive in. We could do a whole episode on each of these, but we do not have time to do that. So we're just going to give you the overview and give you some resources to go ahead and find more info on them. The next one is omega-3s. So this impacts like brain structure, which impacts your mood and again, inflammation. So having omega-3s, 2 to 4 grams daily with food, super important. And then magnesium glycinate.
Mhm.
I just learned about magnesium, Ryan. I didn't know there were like all these different types of magnesium. And a really popular drink I know so many people take is this magnesium drink that they sell at Costco. And it's like this sort of fizzy drink that you can get. And it's supposed to help you, sleep and whatnot. Well, guess what I learned? It actually doesn't. It's not even the right type of magnesium. And so,
Really?
yeah. So it's like being marketed to help you, but it's not
Yeah.
even the right kind. So if you like that drink because it makes you feel like whatever, you like the ritual, fine, but it is actually not the right kind of magnesium.
That happens that's just a good reminder in general. If you're seeing something and you're like, oh, that's that fad right now, like make sure you're doing the right thing for you and that it is actually effective.
Yeah.
Magnesium in general should help with sleep depth and sleep resilience.
Yep.
Right. And then you've got another important one to take is vitamin D3 and K2. That helps balance your hormones in your immune system.
Mm-hmm. And then ashwagandha. This is cortisol reduction. So cortisol is a big deal right now. Like if you are on TikTok and I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a woman in my 40s, but there was all this talk about cortisol. So this helps you regulate and reduce cortisol and resilience. So ashwagandha.
Ashwagandha, yeah. And it reduces cortisol by 27%.
Yeah.
Cortisol is a topic that is constantly being discussed. Like you said, for people like us in our 40s, we should do a whole episode on that. We should actually have a guest to specialize in that. So ashwagandha will help reduce that. And then lastly, I love this, L-theanine plus caffeine. I love caffeine. They say 100 to 200 milligrams of caffeine. So there's about 100 milligrams in 2 shots of espresso for the coffee drinkers out there, depending on the pour and how you make it and whatnot. So about 100 milligrams in 2 shots of espresso. They're saying about 100 to 200 milligrams is okay. I push that a little bit. I think you can push that if you're eating well and you're drinking, you're hydrating. But when you mix caffeine with L-theanine, that's going to help prevent that like jittery feeling. And your alpha brainwave gets increased. So you can have the benefits of caffeine without feeling too jittery.
Love it. So that's what we've got on nutrition. Next time, we're going to be talking about hydration, which of course is another one of the points on the 15-point plan. If you have a great resource for any of these supplements that we've talked about or know someone that we should have on our podcast, please let us know. We love having guests on the podcast. Give you all a break from Ryan and I sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. You love us. What are we talking about? Thank you all for following this journey with us. Share this podcast with someone you know and love, and check us out. A new episode drops every Tuesday. And you can also find Ryan and I on Instagram, Ryan Park Greigg and Jacqueline Ray Smith. We appreciate all of you, and we will see you, or I guess you'll hear us on the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.